These observations are my next guest's wheelhouse. Please welcome to the show, Mish Schneider, managing editor of the Market Gauge. Mish, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate your context. So I'll throw it over to you. What next? Where do we go from here?
Well, just hearing you lay out everything, what really comes to mind is that all of the old historical relationships that we have sunk our teeth into for the last 40 years are changing. And so clearly we're finding a new definition of what the economy is doing, what the market's predicting, what inflation's going to do, and how everybody, including investors, are going to react. So just going back to the empire manufacturing for a second, you know why it was so negative was because of the cost of goods went up. So there's your inflation right there. So it's interesting because, I can give you good news and bad news. So where do you like to start?
Well, start with the good because we don't have that much. It seems like there's not a lot of it out there. So I'll take anything you got that's going to warm my little heart.
Well, actually, the good news is really based more on technicals than fundamentals. And I like to look at that because it's a legitimate way to look at the market. So first of all, even last week with the big Friday decline, downward momentum has actually diminished. Number two is the Russell 2000, the small caps, did not break the June low. And number 2 and 3 is that retail, transportation, and the industrials, which is really the key to the economy, is touching down on a support that goes back to a 6 or 7 year business cycle low. So there's where your hope for a soft landing could come from.
It's kind of like take a suitcase on the Queen Mary, somebody trying to tell me I'm less fat, but we'll see. All right, I'll take that for what it's worth. What about the bad news? What about the bad news?
Oh, well, the bad news, obviously, is that we still have a very tenuous geopolitical situation going around the world. Obviously, here in this country, we have the midterm elections coming up. There's obviously a lot of divisiveness going on in this country, and it'll be interesting to see where we go come the midterm elections. In terms of our own Treasury, we have the yields, instead of relaxing today with the market up, they're actually going up in the long bonds. And with the dollar coming down, there's one of those relationships that you could probably toss out the window right now because people think, the dollar goes down, the market goes up. But the dollar goes down, the yields stay high, and inflation doesn't get out of control. It sort of adds a lot of fire to the lack of credibility that we have for both central banks right now and the government. So that's kind of where we have our eye. That, of course, in volatility, which really hasn't budged even in today's rally.
So you're sitting at home on the couch and you're looking at things and you say, well, look, this is my 7th month I've had inflation over 8%. I don't know, it's like 17 months that you've had negative earnings because of what's been happening with inflation in your pay packet. And then we had CPI and PPI come in just not as good as we thought we'd see. And the investors are allowed to feel a little angst because we've been raising interest rates for the fastest that we've done in the last 40 years, and we're just not getting our bang for our buck, no pun intended. So when do we start to see a bang for our buck? When do these rapid-fire rate increases start to see the CPI or PPI break? I know we're kind of probably closer to the top of that. I don't know. I thought we were already, though, by the way. I've been wrong on that. So when does this roll over with these rapid fire machine gun like interest rate hikes that we've been going through?
Well, you certainly make a great point because it's been the rate of change that's been the most startling to the market, yes. Actually. So the rate of change could slow down, but that doesn't necessarily mean that yields will go lower, the Fed's going to pivot, or inflation gets under control. So really, this great capitulation that everybody keeps waiting for, that has yet to happen, even though the volume of put buying went 3 times the volume of call buying for the first time in a really long time.
That's a great stat.
I think it could be either, anti-bearish because things get so bearish. But on the other hand, it could be that people are finally getting smart. But you still have a huge segment of the population with retirement accounts that have not reallocated or liquidated and are being told to hang on. And I think that may be one of my biggest fears, that at some point they just go, I can't take it anymore, and they run to the exits. And then like 2008, we know eventually that was the low, except we had the Fed to the rescue, and now we don't. So what's going to be the big fix? hopefully it's going to be some kind of reindustrialization in this country that builds our economy from the inside as opposed to counting so much on foreign imports. That would be a nice dream for America. We're certainly capable of it. It could be a long time, though, till we see it. So in the meanwhile, cash is probably the best thing to be in right now.
Sounds like we need to have somebody reinvent something like the internet again, but who knows what that is and when it happens and whoever the person is that would invent it. Anyway, I really appreciate you coming on. That was put a great, very right out there for everybody to understand. I really appreciate you coming on. Mish Schneider, thank you very much. Coming to us from Santa Fe, New Mexico.